This sonnet was written in 2006. It appeared in a little book of poems that, taken together, tell the story of a community and the people in it, including a boy named Albert Hinckley. The epigraph gives us some important background information. The date 1833 is useful. In 1833, slavery existed not only in the South, but also in the North. By the 1840s and 50s, slavery in New England, which includes Connecticut, was almost totally gone. Even in the 1830s, ministers were railing against slavery in the pulpits of New England. And of course, the detail identifying Miss Crandall's boarding school for young ladies of color is helpful. Well, let's take a look at the sonnet. It is in the two-part Italian form, so let's take a look at the octave. Last Sunday, a white boy openly smiled at me where I sat with my sisters at the back of the Baptist church. When the pastor spoke of the sin of slavery, the white boy looked back with his eyebrows arched. I could read his thoughts, but I dared not meet his glance, for nothing must pass between us, not one chance for gossip to pounce with glee on one shared smile. No one must think of us as eligible girls. Okay, well, we can see that the speaker is a black girl, a young lady of color, and the setting is the Baptist church. It's worth noting that the speaker is not in the church, as this is related. The first two words, last Sunday, lets us know that this is being related a few days after the event. In any case, the speaker is sitting in the back of the church with the other young ladies of color because they're black. So they sit in the back. And a white boy, sitting up towards the front, turns around and openly smiled at her. Well, that's problematic for the speaker. She must be very careful not to respond in any way at all because of the social backlash that might result. In this world, it wouldn't be the white boy that would get into trouble because he's white. It would be the black girl. I think lines 3 and 4 are kind of interesting. When the pastor spoke of the sin of slavery, the white boy looked back with his eyebrows arched. I could read his thoughts. Well, what are those thoughts? What do those arched eyebrows signify? I think he's being flirtatious with her. It shows that he's not very attuned to her situation and the kind of dilemma he's making for her, but that's the way with a young boy who sees a girl that attracts him. He typically doesn't think of social ramifications. But the black girl has lived a very different life from the white boy, and she realizes the social dangers. She knows that above all, no one must think of her as an eligible girl. Well, now let's look at the sestet. Waylaid by ruffians as we reached the ford, our wagon was overturned. Our sodden skirts weighted and slowed us, but no one was hurt. Splashing to me, his eyes looking truly scared, that boy took my hand. "Let me help you, miss. From this day forward, I am an abolitionist." Well, a little time has passed, and the setting has changed. The church is over, and the girls are on their way back to the girls' home where they are waylaid by ruffians. The word waylaid means attacked. It's a 19th century word. It's the kind of word a girl living in the time and place would have used, even though it's kind of unfamiliar to us. Ruffians is another 19th century word, a word that would have been part of her vocabulary, but is not part of ours. So on the way home from church, they're fording a stream, and some hooligans attack the wagon and turn it over, causing the young ladies to fall into the water. Now, they're all dressed up in their Sunday finest, long dresses and petticoats, heavy material. So when they fall into the water, those skirts get wet and they get really heavy. And then in the last 3 lines, we have the climax of this little story. Splashing to me, his eyes looking truly scared, that boy took my hand. Let me help you, miss. From this day forward, I am an abolitionist. Some have suggested that this boy was one of the ruffians. But when he sees the results of what has happened, he abandons his buddies and helps the girl. I don't think there's any good evidence to support that. We don't know why that boy happens to be there when the wagon is turned over. It could be simply that he's going home from church and he's following the same road. I think that makes the most sense. In any case, he's there, wades into the water, takes the girl by the hand, looking truly scared, presumably because he's afraid she might have been hurt, and says, "Let me help you, miss. From this day forward, I am an abolitionist." I know that nobody but me cares about this, but it is curious to me that the poem ends with a couplet. That is normally a feature of the English sonnet. I know of no other sonnet in the Italian form that ends in a couplet. But Marilyn Hinckley decides to write a sonnet in the 2-part Italian form with an English sonnet feature at the end. So the poem ends with a statement of principle and conviction from the boy. Now, since this is one poem in a series, and there are several poems about Albert Hinckley, it's hard to talk about a theme for just one of the poems in isolation. The purpose of this poem is to explain character. This poem is about an epiphany, a eureka moment in which a person adopts a different way of thinking and living.